What's going on, guys? Welcome back. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my thoughts on the final arc of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Now, this may kind of catch you off guard because I posted a little image on my channel of Vader holding his lightsaber from the end of The Clone Wars, and some of you may have assumed that that meant I was going to do a stop motion of that scene. That is not the case, so I apologize if I misled any of you with that post. But I want to clarify that I have not bought the Disney Plus streaming service, and I probably will not be buying it. I watched the final 4 episodes of The Clone Wars, like, in chunks through YouTube. That's how I watched the final 4 episodes of The Clone Wars. I didn't miss anything important. I get everything that happened. I understand everything that happened. And I understand the major events that happened throughout The Clone Wars. This series. There are 7 seasons now, and I never really cared for it. I'll explain to you guys my past with the Clone Wars. I was around 4, I think. I think I was 4 when the Clone Wars movie came out. I was born the same year as Revenge of the Sith released, actually. If that makes any sense to you guys. I think that was around like 2008, 2009. And yeah, I was born the year Revenge of the Sith came out, which was 2005. So, yeah, I was actually kind of the right age to enjoy the Clone Wars series, but I never really heard about it or watched it or really cared. A few years ago, I think it was around 4 years ago, I watched the Clone Wars movie with my brother. And I thought it was an okay movie. I didn't really care about the characters. The animation looked kind of weird. I didn't really care about it. And then people were raving about the television series. So I decided to watch the first 2 seasons on Netflix, and nothing really interesting happened. So I skipped ahead to all the Darth Maul stuff because I heard that was interesting, and then I just kind of got bored of the show, and I didn't really care about it. And they canceled it, and they made this Rebels show, which was bad apparently. And I don't really care for that show, but I do know everything major that happened with the characters from the Clone Wars, so I know what happened with Obi-Wan. Darth Maul killed his girlfriend, who was the ruler of Mandalore. I know that Maul's brother got killed by Palpatine or Darth Sidious. I know that many years later down the line, Ahsoka and Vader have a confrontation in the Rebels series or whatever. So I know everything major that happens. I haven't watched all of it, but I do know the major story beats of the Clone Wars series. And then 2 years ago, I heard that they were bringing back the Clone Wars series, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I probably won't really watch it. I don't really care. And I've heard that the first 2 arcs for this series were kind of mediocre. I didn't really care to watch those, and I wasn't really interested in those 2 arcs specifically. Then I heard they were actually tying it in with Revenge of the Sith, and then I became a lot more interested in what they were doing with this season. So I decided to watch, in chunks, the final 4 episodes of the Clone Wars over the internet, and I was there waiting to watch them. And I've got to say, what they were able to do was really amazing here, and that's not really something I usually say about a lot of the recent Star Wars stuff. Are just, like, I do really like Star Wars, and you guys know that, but, like, they haven't really made something this outstanding in a while. And I've heard people saying that this is probably the best thing they've made since Empire Strikes Back. I would agree to that to some extent. It's really fantastic what they did here. And look, Revenge of the Sith, people need to stop arguing about how it's the best one. Empire Strikes Back is objectively the best film of the Star Wars saga. If you break it down, that movie is pretty perfect. Revenge of the Sith, you can complain about the acting and all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of bad stuff in Revenge of the Sith, but the overall story of it is really interesting, and it's probably the best thing in the Star Wars saga. But what they needed was a more interesting execution of that story. And the Clone Wars is here to deliver that, because what they did was they took these characters, Maul, Ahsoka, and Rex, who characters like Maul and Rex did not exist when they were making Revenge of the Sith. So now they're tying us back into Revenge of the Sith. And what they did was something really interesting, which is, with the movie, like, I hate to bring everything back to Endgame, but what Endgame did was, when people say they really cared about the fans, what they really mean is they cared about delivering references and callbacks to other films and tie-ins not presenting them, most of them, in any interesting way, which is just fan service, without really adding any interesting context to them. There are a few moments in that film where they do that, but it's just random fan service that doesn't, benefit the story. What they did here by tying it into Revenge of the Sith and the other movies like Solo, even though I don't like what they did with Maul in Solo, I think that was stupid, the way they tied all these things in and referenced these other things doesn't just, there's some random references which don't really take away anything or add anything. Most of these references and tie-ins and callbacks actually benefit the story, because what they did was set the story on Mandalore, and you realize that Darth Maul has organized the Siege of Mandalore so that Anakin Skywalker would come there so he could kill him, because he knows about Palpatine's grand plan to destroy the Jedi and the Republic, and he wanted to kill Anakin so that the galaxy wouldn't really see any more harm. So Maul is not just your generic villain anymore. He's really a extremely interesting character, and he's almost acting as a peacekeeper in a way. Not fully, because he still does bad things. And I've seen people saying Maul did nothing wrong at the end of the series, like when Ahsoka says, you need to cause some chaos, and then he ends up destroying the ship engine and flies off. Maul didn't not do anything wrong there. He left Ahsoka there. He could have helped her. We know it's not in his character. But as a decent person, he could have gone back and helped Ahsoka and Rex. But he didn't do that because he is a villain. Maul is a villain. He's not a good guy, and he didn't not do anything wrong. Or Maul didn't do anything wrong. No, he did do stuff wrong, and Maul is not a good person by any means. But how they've developed this character is extremely interesting, because he tells Ahsoka this important information about Anakin and how he's going to ultimately be the downfall of the Jedi. And when she goes to tell the Jedi about this, they're extremely rude and demeaning to her because they consider her a citizen because she left the Jedi Order, because she didn't agree with their beliefs. But by doing that, they are basically showing that they don't consider the little people. They don't care about the small people in the world as they call citizens. If they had treated those people, like Ahsoka, with more respect, then they could have won the whole war. But they didn't do that, because the Jedi are not good people. The Jedi are bad, and that's kind of what the whole message has been. The Sith aren't good, the Jedi aren't good. The whole thing is flawed. Because the Jedi are really no better than the Sith, if you really think about it. At least that's my take on the whole message here. But they really do something interesting with that, because these characters weren't there in Revenge of the Sith. They literally have a scene from Revenge of the Sith, and then instead of cutting away, and like it does in Revenge of the Sith, Ahsoka just walks into the room. That's extremely interesting, and extremely well done, because you made these characters that didn't exist at the time, and weren't in the movie, and you've now made them an integral part of the movie, without making it feel weird that they never mention them. Because Revenge of the Sith is a crazy movie. There's a lot of stuff going on in Revenge of the Sith. So it makes sense why characters like Ahsoka and Rex wouldn't be mentioned by name, randomly. It's really good how they did it, and really intriguing. And they really did make Anakin Skywalker's turn feel really powerful, because the thing is, even though you see it in the movie, and you get hints of it, and you understand what happened because of the movie, these episodes really rely on you knowing what happens in the movie. But you don't see Anakin's turn to the dark side like you do in the movie, so you just see snippets. So it's even more powerful when you see in the final scene, which I have portrayed on my little display here, when he walks out and picks up the lightsaber, which kind of signifies his friendship with Ahsoka because he gave it to her as kind of the last time he saw her as Anakin Skywalker. And you just see him standing there in front of the clone helmet that does have Ahsoka's markings on it, and it kind of symbolizes how everything he cared about is gone. And for the first time ever, it's not like a Rogue One epic moment where he walks down a hallway and murders rebels. No, it's sad. You aren't happy about seeing Anakin like this, and you see his eye through the mask, and you don't see the epic, intimidating Darth Vader anymore. You just see this sad, broken Anakin Skywalker behind that mask. I didn't feel like I was watching Darth Vader. I felt like I was watching Anakin Skywalker. and it's really tragic. I understand there are still sad moments in Revenge of the Sith, and Revenge of the Sith is a sad movie, but the acting and the script and stuff really limited the amount of emotion you could pull out of those characters. Because Anakin's whole turn is quite sad, but the way Hayden Christensen delivered the lines sounded really dumb. But in this, you don't see any of it. The only parts you see of Anakin are at the very beginning, when he gives Ahsoka the lightsabers, and the very end where he walks out and picks it up. But he's Vader now. And it's not a happy moment. It's not like oh my god, it's Darth Vader, isn't that epic? It's like, man, this really sucks. I don't like seeing Anakin like this. And that's really where this whole series excelled for me, is from what I've seen of it, and from what I understand, it really did humanize the clones, but it also really did humanize Anakin's turn. And yeah, it was really a weird moment for me to watch that scene, because I remember that was the first scene I watched from the final episode. I know, it's the last scene, so I didn't watch the full episode. I just watched that one scene and then went back and watched the full episode. That was a really powerful scene, and I didn't expect this show to go that powerful with it. And that's really what I have to say about it, is I never cared about the Clone Wars, and I'm still not really a Clone Wars fan, but I am a Star Wars fan, and I am a fan of Revenge of the Sith. And what they were able to do with this, I've never seen this done so well in a big franchise like this, going back to a movie that came out 15 years ago, and actually making it kind of better in a way by just existing and like telling the story from this perspective. And it almost makes that more powerful. And the clones as well, like, you see all the clones and you feel bad for them. They're humans. Like, you see them as people, and then when they get killed, it's sad. And then at the end, you see all of them buried. And the last shot of the series is the clone helmet with Ahsoka's face painted on it, with Anakin walking away in the background. And that does show how ultimately the Clone Wars were pointless. It was all just a game of chess, basically, by Darth Sidious, who was just playing by himself. That's what I think the whole thing was. It was just Sidious playing on a chessboard, but there's no one on the other side of the board. He's just controlling both the armies. And in the end, it was just a pointless war, and it's sad to see that all these clones, what they believed in, was ultimately just like fake, basically. Like, nothing they were fighting for really existed. It was all just corrupt. And that is kind of what happens in real life, if you really do think about it. And what they were able to do with the Clone Wars was pretty incredible here. And like I've said, I'm not a fan of the Clone Wars, and I'm not going to go back and rewatch the rest of the series. I have trouble personally getting into TV shows. They just go, when they're like TV shows like this, where they go on for so long. Like, there are people on the internet I've seen doing, like, series, like, watches where they watch through the whole series. I can't do that. I don't have the patience to go through an entire series like this, where most of the episodes are pointless, from what I understand. But when you have stuff like this is really powerful. And if this is what the whole series was building up to, round of applause to, I believe it was Dave Filoni, who directed this show. Just an excellent job from everybody involved. And like I said, I watched it through snippets, so I'm pretty sure I get the basic, or I get pretty much the understanding of everything that happens, but they really did pull this off excellently, and you really do have to respect the people. So this is a case where I more so really respect the people behind this. It's not so much that I love the Clone Wars series besides these 4 episodes, or that I really cared about the Clone Wars series at all, and I still don't really care about it, but somehow I don't feel like I have to, because I really do respect what they did with this. And just as a fan of Star Wars and of Revenge of the Sith and of the prequels, since I was really young, growing up with those, this really does enhance that story, and there's a lot, it really makes the conflict less black and white like it was in those movies. So, you know, round of applause to those guys. If you guys have seen these episodes, the 4 episodes from the end of the Clone Wars, please watch them, because I didn't have Disney Plus at my disposal, and I don't want to buy that service. But if you do and you haven't watched these episodes, I don't know what you're doing. Go watch the final 4 episodes of the Clone Wars. It's kind of like a movie. I don't know why they didn't make it into a movie, but it really was really powerful what they were able to do. And so yeah, if you have seen the final 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, please let me know all your thoughts on them in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.